In this lecture, we're going to think about how to teach the story. And as an example, we're going to use this lesson, going to the market to buy fruit and to buy vegetables. Now, what I suggest you do is, before even you start reading the story with the student, you first ask them a few questions about going to the market, because maybe they already know quite a few of the words. Maybe it's a mother who has already been shopping for fruit and vegetables. So first test their knowledge before you start reading the story, before you start going into the lesson, to see how much they already understand. Now, rather than just go straight through the story from beginning to end, and then right through the vocabulary from beginning to end, and then right through the grammar from beginning to end, which some students find boring, find it drags, it's helpful to divide the story up into sections and teach it section by section. And actually not just teach the story section by section, but to teach the vocabulary related to that section, and also any grammar point, any new grammar point that comes in the lesson, then teach it within that section. And then when you've gone through all three sections, then cover the story itself as one whole. Now, one thing you need to find out about your student is how much preparation have they done before the lesson. If they haven't looked at the textbook before coming to class, then obviously you'll need to read the story together with the student, and then get the student to read it, and maybe do that 2 or 3 times. But if not, then you can get straight into it. I remember once I was in the Philippines, and I spent 3 days learning Tagalog, the national language of the Philippines. And I remember on the 3rd day, the teacher said to me, "Oh, your Tagalog is really progressing fast." But actually, if she had tested what I knew, she would have found that actually very little went in. I was able to read the story along with her, I was able to mimic her, but actually very little had gone in. And so rather than just each time simply read the story with the student and then get them to read it, yes, you could do that at the start of the lesson, but we need to think about what other ways, more fun, more interesting for the student, can we use to teach the story. This is using PowerPoint, but you can do it by drawing the vocabulary items. Here you go through and teach the vocabulary, the basic market, shopkeeper, shopkeeper's wife, and then the money that's used. Teach those using PowerPoint, and then you can teach the weights, 公斤 and 斤. And then the words cheap and expensive, and then there's some more money there. Then you can group the words in the vocabulary list together, bring all the vegetables together and teach the vegetables. And then in this lesson also, the fruits, you can bring the fruits together and teach the fruits. Then when you've done that, you can think up basic questions to ask that will be relevant to this lesson. This is a very early lesson. It's actually lesson 4 of their first textbook. So the questions are very basic. You can ask 你有没有, and then whatever it is, tomatoes or bananas, and 这个菜 or 这个水果叫什么, and point to it, or 一斤多少钱, or you can ask 西红柿怎么卖, 我要卖这些. And so you can cover some of the basic everyday questions used when shopping in the market using this. but then move on and tell the story, not just simply reading it in the book, but using pictures. 这是菜市场，我到了菜市场，问老板香蕉一斤多少钱？老板说3块钱。我说我要买2公斤。我问他胡萝卜怎么卖？老板娘说1斤4块5。我说我要3斤。我问老板你有没有苹果？他说有，1斤12块钱。我说我不要。我问老板娘这是什么东西？她说西红柿。So first the teacher can use these to tell the story, and then you can go back and the student then tells the story using the pictures. Having done that, then you can get the student or the teacher first and then the student to make up a story. 这是菜市场，我要买香蕉，我问老板香蕉多少钱？他说3块钱 etc etc etc. And then you, the teacher, and then the student can make up a story. Now, maybe you don't have the use of PowerPoint, but I want to show you what a very fine teacher, Lin Ji-jun, I want to use 2 examples of how she teaches the story. So let's look at these now. There's 2 of them. Let's look at the first one and see how she taught the story.
刘先生去商场买东西，商场里的小姐跟他对话。这个商场里的小姐跟他对话，这个刘先生他要买一件39号的衬衫，颜色蓝的、白的都可以。这个时候呢，我是预备了，他要买一件39号大的衬衫，颜色是蓝的或是白的都可以。那么，商场里的小姐拿出来给他试穿，他试穿了2次，第1次不合适，因为太小。第2次试穿的那件成了，所以呢，刘先生就问那件衬衫多少钱？价钱是这个。刘先生觉得太贵，所以他就讲价。他希望这样，我没有说出来。他希望这样，后来也成了。买了这件衬衫以后，刘先生又问了2个问题。第1个问题在哪里付钱？第2个问题，因为他有孩子，他要帮他的孩子买一条短裤，可是他不知道在几楼卖这个短裤。他问了这2个问题。刘先生
Oh, okay. Sorry, it's starting again, so let me turn it off. See how simple it is, just writing the words on the board, and yet it brings the story to life much more. Let's look at another one, another example, Lin Ji-jun. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. Let's look at her doing another story.
这位先生是日本人，他姓谢。这位先生是美国人，他姓李。李先生是一位博士，他们2个是朋友。有一天，李博士到这个谢先生的家里面去谈一谈中国教育的问题。因为日本这位先生呢，他有3个孩子，这3个孩子老大现在读大学，老2读初3，老3读小6。这3个孩子，比到哪去了？都戴眼镜儿，临时在画，非常的可笑。3个孩子都戴眼镜儿，然后我们读故事。 事的时候，当然最规矩的就是谢先生是日本人，他有3个孩子，2男1女，这是一种。另外一种呢，一点点变化是什么？既然有这个图，那你就是看看说说，这个是比较自然的。如果你的记性够好，你甚至可以不看，好，看一眼说很多，用你的肢体，用你的表情帮助学生们去理解。好，谢先生刚才我已经说了，谢先生是日本人，他有几个孩子，你边说就可以边问了，因为你事先已经有说明。他有几个孩子？对，几男几女？2男1女。对，我的图画得很好。那个时候你知道你那种臭美，我们说那个是这是国语吗？臭美你们懂吗？哦，好 ，just for fun 哈。老大现在读什么？老二呢？现在读？你们不看我，老二现在读？今年要上高中。因为他在课文里面，他在补习呢，他还没上高中，所以你这个介绍的时候，你得写初3，不是高中。老二现在是什么学生啊？初3的学生。好，那么他的老3是男的还是女的？读什么？几年级？对。都想睡觉，作证，你们的声音就不一样了。有一天，谢先生他的一位美国朋友李博士到他家去访问他。好，李博士看见他的3个孩子都怎么样？对，因为有时候我画的可能不够好，就像这样远远的，可能老师也看不清楚，所以我再帮助一下。好，如果他们不戴，就看不清楚。这个词儿在这边，对不对？所以他们自己呢，必须要做一个怎么样的记号，你都看不清楚在这儿。所以他就跟谢先生谈到教育的问题。现在是他们的谈话，是李先生开始的。看你们的纸啊，看你们的纸。这个时候，因为每个人都有这张纸嘛。李博士说：“听说在日本，差不多每一个学生都去补习班，是真的吗？”谢先生说：“是啊，因为大家觉得，如果不去补习班，就可能考不上好学校。比如说。”我们家的老二，今年准备考高中，我们家老二今年准备考高中，他在学校上了8小时的课才回家。我现在这个说的，跟书本上有一点不一样。书本上说，在学校上8小时的课，下了课还是得去补习班。我说的太快，那我应该说，他在学校里要上8小时的课，下课以后还得去补习班补习。我大概会说的比较像我们平常的口语哈。他要到补习班去补习，每天晚上8、9点才回家。回家以后能做什么？回家以后就吃一点东西，休息一下，然后还得做作业。这个地方你怎么写你自己决定，但是得知道3件事情啊。然后呢，回来要吃点东西，休息休息，就回他的房间去写作业，常常很晚很晚才睡觉，所以有的时候早上起不来，来不及坐班车。你要给学生有写的时间，所以你就注意学生这个时候的反应。他在写，你就等他一下啊。 这位先生是日本人
Okay,
他姓
she's good, isn't she? So, if you can use PowerPoint and get pictures from the internet, that's great. But if not, you see how she did it, just simply drawing on the board the pictures and then telling the story from the pictures. Another thing you can do with the story is ask questions of the story, not just straight questions, but say, for instance, 苹果5块钱一斤, true or false? Or for instance, 洋葱一斤, are they 2块钱 or 3块钱 or 4块钱? Also, if, say, it's a dialogue, then it's a bit challenging for the student, but give them the challenge if you think they can take it. Turn the dialogue into a story, or the other way around. Turn the story into a dialogue. Also, another way, which is, I think, more fun, is the teacher starts the story. 今天我们去菜市场, and then the next student carries on with the story, adds a bit more, another sentence, and another student adds another sentence, and then another one adds another sentence. And actually, you don't have to limit it to the story in the book, maybe limit it to the vocabulary that students have learnt, but see how long you can make this story. Also, you can take the vocabulary pictures and mix them up and make a new story. 我们今天去菜市场, 我先要买香蕉, 买了香蕉以后, 我要买一些洋葱. So just mix up the pictures and then get the student to make up a new story. Or you can act out the story, or get the student to act it out, using the vocabulary cards as prompt cards. Right? For instance, 我要去菜市场, 我先买, what's this? 苹果, 对. 今天苹果 how much? 3块5. And then 我去买香蕉. 香蕉很贵, 香蕉多少钱? 22块. So you can use the vocabulary cards as prompts for the students to tell the story, the student to tell the story. Or even act it out if they like acting. Some students like acting, some don't. Another thing you can then do is, especially if the student's living in China, or has lived in China, is that then you can compare and contrast the student's home country with life in China. For instance, what fruits are in the market in China and what fruits are in the market in your home country. Then what you could do is, for homework, you could get the students to go to the market and to find out what are the prices of certain fruits and vegetables, and then come back tomorrow and tell you the teacher. This gets them using it. Some students find this a little difficult, but maybe you could say, well, if you're too nervous to go yourself, why not 2 students go along together and then come back and tell me tomorrow? Then, in order to test the students' listening comprehension, what you could do is, you, the teacher, could write a new story, but, and this is very important, you must limit your story only to the vocabulary that the student has covered in the lessons up to now. Also, you can only use the grammar that the students have covered in the lessons they've studied up to now. I find that many teachers, when they write their own story, they add in extra words. I remember one teacher, she put in the word 家乐福, Carrefour, and I said, well, that doesn't come in these lessons the students studied. And she said, well, the student ought to know it. And I said, you can't say that. Some students will know it, some won't. And so it's very important because you don't want to frustrate the students, that when you rewrite, you write a new story, you restrict it to the vocabulary, only the vocabulary they've learnt in the textbook up to now, and also only the grammar they've covered up to now. If you don't do that, you're going to frustrate the student terribly. Also, as you prepare the lesson, think about maybe some cultural aspects relevant to this lesson. For instance, going to the fruit and vegetable market in China, does one normally bargain or not? You could tell the student that. You might say, well, some smaller markets, they'll bargain, but larger ones, and obviously supermarkets, they don't bargain. But whatever it is, think about what is the culturally relevant bit or aspect of life in China that you can bring in. At a higher level, obviously buying fruit and vegetables is a much earlier lesson, but at a higher level lesson, maybe there's some magazine pictures or even some newspaper items relevant to the topic that you could bring into class. Or you could go online and maybe find something online that's relevant to the topic that's being covered. And then finally, if you want to, maybe at the end, there's some translation into Chinese. This is just helping the student again review both the vocabulary and also the grammar patterns covered in this lesson or up till this lesson. So translation is helpful as a check to the student. Do I understand the grammar that I've covered up to now? And then finally, again, if there's an activity in the book, then you can do that activity. I think by doing these things, these different approaches to the story, avoiding just simply reading it along with the students, it's going to make it much more interesting, much more fun, and actually much more relevant to the student. So I hope that you find those things I've shared with you helpful. Okay, thank you very much.